Good afternoon. How are you today? It's afternoon because I did one of those things that we should do from time to time, get a checkup. So I did a colonoscopy. Now, most of you may know this, from 50 on, it's a really good thing to do because colon cancer is a slow moving cancer. And if you get it early, which you can by a checkup, you literally save your own life. And there have been significant and prominent people who, I guess, just the business of life, they just didn't allow themselves to have these tests, and they died because of it. So that's an unpaid public service announcement. Yeah, some of it's inconvenient, but it's a smart thing to do. So that end of my my medical advice from a lawyer who's an amateur hypochondriac. So do what you will. There are a whole bunch of issues in the nation that are distressing, but one of the ones that persists is what's happening in Minneapolis, but also with racist cops elsewhere around America. The notion that a woman could accidentally shoot with a gun what she intended to do with a taser to a young man who had a summons or a warrant to appear in court is quite distressing. 26 years experienced officer, and she reaches for the wrong weapon. Did she? Did she unconsciously want to shoot this person because he was a person of color? Did she resent the contempt of cop when it happened? And how is it she immediately after she shoots says in the tape, "Oh my God, I shot him with a gun"? How does that happen? There's two different hips, two different devices, two different weights, colors, everything. And even how you aim it. Because when you aim a taser, you're sending the prongs to the person, and the wire runs from that person back to the weapon to send an electric charge to them. How do you confuse that? So now people say, "Oh, it was an accident." Well, stop the music. There are involuntary and harmful things that happen, and you can't get away with just saying it's an accident. I represented a client in Florida. I came into the case long after she'd been sentenced, and she'd gotten 40 years. And I found some conflicts and overlap in the prosecution and the defense, and certain things that I thought should have happened. She got 40 years for riding on the wrong side of the road, running into someone else. It was an accident, okay? Involuntary manslaughter. She didn't voluntarily choose to do it, but she was reckless and clumsy and made a mistake. And there can be defenses to this, but in my opinion, she had none. But the case could have been handled better. So in the end, she ended up having to spend, I got the sentence reduced to 20 years. And look at that, a school bus. Shouldn't we break out in some song like Country Roads for that? So she spent 20 years, and I visited her in prison down in Florida and so forth. It was a low security prison. So what am I saying? That crime and how she was treated should at least be similar to how a police officer who shoots someone involuntarily and kills them. Now in that accident, the people in the car, the impact caused it to fire, and all the people in the car were killed instantaneously, and even in her own car. The man she was with, her significant other, he died. So here we have a police officer, 26 years experience. Now, why do we give her a break? Explain it to me. Is it because the person who was shot was young? Because he was a person of color? Because we suspected him of a crime? No. She, it seems to me, is liable for involuntary manslaughter, and maybe worse, depending on how the interviews go after this early time. Now, secondly, that's not my only beef. in the same category of what the hell is going on, we have the defense in the Chauvin case putting on so-called experts to explain to us, you know, you really can throw a person to the floor. You really can up the game. You really can hurt somebody more. And you can basically punish them for, you know, contempt of cop. That's what I get out of it. And, you know, you never know about the drugs. You never know how they could generate them to doing something. Well, stop the music. None of those things should apply normally as acceptable practice. Secondly, they really don't apply in this case, given the actual facts as to the ones that the defense is trying to mold. But finally, as a guy who's been both a prosecutor and has an active criminal defense practice, what the hell is a defense attorney doing in a courtroom justifying jackboot tactics by police as acceptable? It's outrageous. And, you know, I know people go to extremes in their zealotry on behalf of a cause or client in court. But there should be some concern about who you're speaking to when you do that. We're telling the world that a cop can do this stuff, which is similar to what happened in Virginia. That's wrong. That's really wrong. And I hope the jurors prove it wrong in this case. And that attorney should be ashamed of himself. It's one of the reasons I couldn't take the case. You know, I wasn't offered to take the case, but I'm saying, theoretically, who would you represent? I couldn't represent a cop who did this. I probably could only represent him if he said mea culpa and was prepared to enter a plea. And instead, we have a trial, which is very painful to the community and the world, which is a slow plea. That's what I call it, because the evidence is so overwhelming. He should be convicted, and I'm hopeful he will be convicted. And his lawyer, we should take a step back from a lawyer who would do these kinds of things in court to distort the truth. Another mistake in that trial, in my opinion, was the judge letting in so much of the character assassination that the defense wanted, that the prosecution then brings in the deceased's girlfriend to talk about their relationship and their drug practices. And then his brother comes in and testifies. Now, under the circumstances, I think the prosecutor had to prove his case against this character assassination. But I don't think either should have been in the courtroom. It should have been a case about a bad police officer killing a man. And yes, if there were things incident to the actual event, yeah, let's talk about those. But let's not go around the horn talking about things that have nothing to do with the case. So that's enough of that. It is beautiful this afternoon. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.